I know it's really hard not to want to chat, but we'll give you some time after too. Thank you. Wonderful. All right.
Oh, okay.
Nice. Okay, ready? All right, so we are going to introduce to you here a panel of schools who have things going on, and they are going to share a little bit with you about what they've been working on, how they got started, and just kind of some of the basics to help us all think about what else we might be able to do. So first, I'd like to introduce from Princeton High School, Emery Colby, the assistant principal. You have to jump up? No, I'm just
I'm not using the mic either.
No, and we'll have you. I'm just going to do a quick round of introductions, and then we'll give you the mic so people can hear you. Also with Mille Lacs Health System, Lana Kovarik, who's a recruiter. Wonderful, thank you. North Branch High School, Coleman Coley McDonald, principal there. Thank you. And with Big Lake High School, Mr. Bob Dockendorf.
Good morning.
And I want to give Doc, as he's known as, Bob Dockendorf, a round of applause. He just recently was announced as the Central Division of Minnesota Association, a secondary school, as Principal of the Year. So if we can give him a round of applause.
All right, and unfortunately, Tyler with Wilmer High School was not able to be with us today. So we are going to start out, and I'll bring this microphone around to everyone, and then we will try to nicely cut you off if you talk too long. We're going to have each panelist first introduce themselves and their role, the size of the school they represent, and their programs that make their school different than others in preparing students for career readiness.
So I'm going to do it without the microphone because I'm going to make you crunch or something. I'm Emery Colby. I am from Princeton High School. It's about 1,000 students. And I'm here to talk about the Learning and Living Committee, which is a community-based, community school partnership that works with students, works with us, trying to figure out how to serve students best, to get them into the workforce or their colleges.
Okay, thank you. Lana is not with the school officially, so she can describe what she does and what school you're kind of associated with.
Okay, so now I know what it feels like to sit in the principal's office. I am surrounded. Yes. So I'm Lana Kovarik. I am the recruiter for Mille Lacs Health System. What schools do I work with? Onamia schools, Isle schools, some with Malacca and some with Piers. We're kind of in a unique little area. We are in a town that does not even have a grocery store, so recruiting can be challenging, and that's why we started working with our high schools. We run a health career week for our high school students, where they can actually go around, they can observe, whether it be a surgery unit, whether it's a med-surg unit, long-term care, assisted living, clinic. We kind of have a lot under one roof. Radiology is a big interest as well with the students. What do? We started I guess you guys know it as a CNA program, which is actually now considered an NAR. That name got changed. Unfortunately, we had a employee that was an instructor with CLC College, and she retired this year, so we're kind of punting and coming up with a new strategy. We run a program called On Track, which is an online program, and now we just need to get it affiliated with college so that we can have the PSEO credits for our students. So that's our challenge right now.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Coleman McDonough. I'm the high school principal in North Branch. Before I start, I want to thank GPS 4593 for putting this on and bringing everyone together. Certainly Carla Vita, North Branch Community Development Director. She's kind of supported all of us in developing all of this. My family consumer science teacher, I don't know if you were here to be able to see her and my kids, or our kids, present. That's how I feel, what can I say? They did all the baked goods, I know you know that. I was actually in the classroom yesterday when they were doing it, and it's just exciting to see. I'm sure they shared with you, North Branch Public Schools has invested a significant amount of money in creating this new kitchen. If you get a chance, you should really come over and check it out. It's phenomenal. And I want to thank our wonderful students who are here. As you can imagine, as adults, we do this kind of stuff, but they kind of sit here and listen to us and kind of go, but it's really great for them to have this experience and know what we're doing here. So what's going on at North Branch Area High School? We have several things in place, and it started several years ago. I want to say I'm just completing my 9th year as the principal in North Branch. Year 2, we brought in what's called PLTW, which is Project Lead the Way, which is a STEM program. And we're going to talk more about that because that's kind of where the business partnership piece starts in North Branch. But our overall philosophy is to provide a comprehensive educational opportunity for kids. As you're hearing more and more, 4-year college isn't for every kid. And that's, I think, one of our responsibilities is to start to change that message. I think too often parents and people just think, well, yep, you go to high school and then you got to go to college. Well, no, you don't. So we have our Project Lead the Way program. We also have an Air Force Junior ROTC program, which is in its 3rd year. Again, that's not, for those who aren't familiar with Junior ROTC programs, it's not a military recruiting type tool. Really, it's about citizenship and leadership and those types of things. Do some students that participate in that end up moving in that direction? Yes. And to that end, good. God bless all our soldiers. And then last but certainly not least, we now are in the 3rd year of the implementation of our ProStar program, which is our advanced culinary program. And so those are kind of the 3 programs, at least, that are applicable to this conversation. So we're really excited about that. Mr. Dockendorf.
Thank you, sir. It's exciting.
All right.
Good morning. My name is Bob Dockendorf, and I'm the high school principal of Big Lake. We are a school of give or take 9 to 925 students, grades 9 through 12. We've been on this journey since the end of 2012, and it's been an exciting journey. We have taken the approach that we're talking about shifting the whole system, not just programmatic pieces. Although there are parts that are programs in it, we have decided to now call ourselves a 3E school, and where we focus on the exposure, focus on the exploration, and then the experiential learning. So there's all kinds of, that's just a draft. And then next year we're going into expanding so that there's a balance. Thank you, Vanna. That there's a balance with the college side of things, and so that we really know who we are. And when I say we take a systemic approach, we have really taken a stance, and graduation requirements have changed in Big Lake, starting with this year's freshmen, where they have to take certain courses that lead down either path, the college path, the college path, or, and this model shows the apprenticeship, but actually experiential learning. And we're real excited to continue on that. We have been doing everything from taking kids anywhere to get exposure and to explore, such as the EPIC, Forecast Your Future, you name it. If there's 4 or more students that want to go somewhere to learn something, we actually purchased 2 vans last year, and we ask a different teacher along the way, because we try to get our teachers involved so that it's the whole system. We're really excited. We just locked in. We have our Project Lead the Way for engineering. We are adding the EDD class next year, and we are in partnership with National Project Lead the Way and the U.S. Department of Labor and of course Minnesota Department of Education for a national pilot in apprenticeship for engineering. So pretty excited about that. But we always try to look at it as what is missing in our system for this, and what can we do about it. So going on to the last part about the graduation requirements, by the time they're seniors, every student has to take a college class where it's the college skills class that most colleges offer. We use Central Lakes, or they have to take either, we also have CEO program, Creating Entrepreneurial Opportunities. We have apprenticeships, we have OJT, any of those. So they have to do one or the other in order to graduate. And so I'm pretty excited about that.
Thank you. All right, next, I guess if we pass it back to Lana, I think I'll have her start. I'm going to try to reframe the question. The question for, the next question for everyone is going to be, how did you decide to work with your community, businesses, parents, and the teachers to prepare students for career readiness? Talk about how you decided to focus on that area. This is for you, healthcare, right? And how did you work with businesses and the community? And who else is involved? So that's kind of the big question, right, for today. So if you could just explain a little bit more in depth what you started with and share a little bit about how your program works.
What did we start with? We started with nothing when I came, I guess. How I got started with trying to work with the schools was I was asked to participate in mock interviews for a career class. And I realized at that point that I needed to be and wanted to be more involved in my new community. And so that went into, I've been doing that now for 4 years, and now I'm even having students after the class come back in and say, will you help me rewrite this? Will you, I'm preparing for this, will you interview me again? I'm having more and more the first students come in. Now they've completed a 2-year program, and where can I go? What's your recommendation? And staying in contact with those students, I guess. We have a farming community, and getting them to understand that growing up on a farm is something to be proud of, and don't be afraid to reflect a good work ethic is also very important. How we come up with the CNA program was a huge need within our department. Like I said, our population, I believe in Onamia, is less than 300. We don't have a large town really surrounding us, and we are recruiting all the way from St. Cloud, Brainerd, Princeton, and our problem is we are not metro wage. We're right on the border. And so we have to be a little bit more creative. I learned how many of the high school students wanted to go into, for say, nursing. So I started the class initially because those students could earn more money and work less hours while they were in college. And getting them to participate was a challenge. We also run a SHIP program, summer healthcare internship, and even to get them involved in that was a bit of a challenge. Now I've got a waiting list. I'm happy to say we don't have any NAR openings, and that's huge for my system, and it's huge for my community that I live in. So that's how we got started.
Okay. And can you just elaborate a little bit more? So from your side as a business, how did you then incorporate, you mentioned you did the interviews, and that's kind of how you got started. How now are you kind of working together with the high schools?
any opportunity that they will let me, I guess. Well, from the mock interviews, then that's where we started into the health career week. And from there, we're hoping to start our own scrubs camp. We'd like to be able to go into, a lot of them do it on the high school level, but we would like to be able to start on the elementary level, actually, and give them something fun. We do teddy bear clinics, and we do, you know, a lot of different stuff already, but just to get our kids more and more involved within the community. We are trying to work through a program for daycare as well to employ more students after school. We're actually having to put in and start our own daycare. We had 4 daycares retired in 1 year, and that really hurt our workforce if they don't have childcare. So we decided that was something that we could do for the community, and now for those students looking at like early childhood, we'd like to be able to give them that paid hands-on experience. We're looking at bringing in an EMT program and paramedic program that they can at least start the EMT program using PSEO. Now when we're hiring our staff, we also look at, are you an instructor? What could you be an instructor for? Do you have an interest? You know, so I think we just had to be a lot more creative on our side to be able to help our community, and then to try to get that buy-in. So.
Thank you. All right, I will pass it over to you. Thank you. Do you have that little question?
Okay, I kind of forgot the question, so I'm just going to wing it.
How did you decide to work with your community, businesses, parents, and the teachers to prepare students for career readiness? And tell a little bit maybe if there's a particular area that you're focusing on, how you chose that.
So I'm representing Princeton's Learning and Living Committee, even though I work at the high school. And the Learning and Living Committee is a community education partnership that has a number of members. It has representatives from local businesses, the Chamber of Commerce in Princeton. The superintendent's office always has 2 or 3 people. High school, middle school, counselors, administrators, teachers. And then the ALC and the student services building. And the goal has always, this community partnership has been ongoing for probably 3 decades. So they have always seen a need to reach out to the school and say, how can we help? How can we offer a connection with our local businesses? And how can we help students know what's available and what kinds of skills we're looking for? So they've been doing work sort of behind the scenes for years and years and years, and the school has tapped into it, and it's kind of ebbed and flowed. They've done all kinds of things. They've taken the wheel and said, how do we get our local businesses to identify themselves and what they offer students within that wheel? And so individual businesses, I brought up one example of the Elam Care facility in town, said, here are the kinds of things we offer. Yes, we're in the healthcare area, but we also have other things. We have custodial, we have food service, we have housekeeping. And they want students to know that just because you work at the Elam home, you aren't necessarily working one-on-one with patients. And so they offer students opportunities to meet them. We have this event we do every year called It's Just Dessert, based on the dating concept of It's Just Lunch, where students meet with local businesses for 3 minutes at a time. They sit down at the table, ask questions back and forth, the bell rings, and they go to the next table. And they learn a little bit about the business, they learn a little bit about looking people in the eye when they're talking to them and shaking their hand and introducing themselves. We do that with sophomores. And sophomores are super nervous when they go in and super excited to apply for jobs when they come out. And that's not even what it's about, but they start making connection with local businesses. So that's sort of an unintended outcome. This is also the group that asked Luke Reiner to come in and talk to our students and talk to the parents. So they're trying to get information out. and they're trying to get students out and about into the businesses. We did a career crawl, I think Barb Muckenhern talked about this last year, where every teacher was required to go to businesses on a staff development day, and some of them went kind of begrudgingly and some of them went very begrudgingly. But they went to businesses, and then sat down and talked with the business people. They learned about the business, but they asked the businesses, what do you want our students to be able to know and do when they come into your employment? And they ended up coming up with 5 main things they heard over and over and over at the Princeton 5. And it was things like collaboration and communication, teamwork, self-management, critical thinking, and accountability. Not math, not science, not English, not social. So the soft skills. And for our teachers to hear, A, yeah, all that stuff they've been reminding students they need to be able to do is right on. And B, what our local people do was amazing. We went into the mortuary, we went into Glen Metalcraft, we went into the healthcare system. We were in little nooks and crannies that some of us didn't know existed. I've worked there for 27 years. I had no idea that this metal fabricating business existed in Princeton. Pretty amazing event. Now we want students to do that. So we've done kind of short, targeted things. I see that changing. Princeton is in the first year of a 3-year redesign process. We have a grant from the Bush Foundation to look at redesigning our high school. We're going to steal from all these other people. And we're going to use Learning and Living's wisdom and opportunities to help guide us in how to connect with the local businesses to get those partnerships going in the individual classes.
Thank you.
Okay, so how did we, North Branch Area Public Schools, the high school, kind of get involved in working with our businesses? Well, really it started with Project Lead the Way. One of the primary pillar elements of well-functioning PLTW program is having a partnership team. That's what they call it. Surprisingly enough, they're more difficult to put together than you might think. Now, as many deals are brokered on a golf course, that's actually how ours started. I played golf with one of the business owners who ran a manufacturing business, and I said, hey, you know, I'm doing this deal, and I kind of explained it to him on the first hole, and he didn't really get it. And by the time we made the turn, he had it, and so obviously I connected with him, and he connected me with some folks, and so we have what's WCS Industries, Anderson Corporation, Rosenbauer, don't let me forget anybody, Wyoming Machine, and I am forgetting somebody, and I apologize if you're sitting here. But the reason I'm going to go there is, so we have the manufacturing businesses, and that's kind of our focus at the high school right now as it pertains to PLTW. But in addition to that, you also have to have the connection and the partnership with higher ed, because we call it college and career readiness. Kids, I want to put kids in a position where they can do whatever they want. If they want to go to MIT, they can go to MIT. If they want to go, work at Dairy Queen, they can do that too, and they have all the skills, whatever that might look like. The partnership piece is challenging. As we developed our PLTW partnership team, when I finally got them all to come in. Food also works really well. If you bring people in and you have food, they like that. So we sat them all down for a wonderful lunch, and the first thing I said to them was, I'm not going to ask you for any money yet. And so we spent a year talking about what it looked like, how they were going to contribute, what kind of role they were going to play. Eventually we came up with what we call our 50-50 grant. And each of the businesses donate $1,000 annually. $500. If you have a PLTW program, you know that it's an expensive program to operate. There's lots of moving parts, and and so $500 of each of those donations goes right to our teachers and our kids, so they can buy the VEX kits or whatever it is that they need, go on a field trip. The other $500 we put into a scholarship fund. And the nice part of our implementation was we implemented it at the middle school level. And in a previous building that I worked in, which was a middle school, we had a PLTW program. We felt like implementing it at the high school, our kids are going to go, PLT who? What is this? And the kids weren't going to take it. So we implemented it first in the middle school, and all of our middle school kids were exposed to it. You've heard that word, exposure. So we exposed all our middle school kids to it before it came to the high school. So when they got to the high school, oh yeah, I know what this is, and now they could actually make an educated decision that this, yes, was a direction that we were going to go. We gradually increased the number of PLTW courses that we offered, and now we have all the way through to the EDD course, which is the capstone course. And so as the business partnership developed, we're now getting to the point where, okay, we have full implementation of PLTW. What's the next step? So we sat down, we meet twice a year at the high school. The manufacturing businesses, our higher ed, we all sat down and said, okay, what's our next step? The next step is our apprenticeship program. And we've been talking about that for, I want to say, about 3 years. And it's a really tough one to get off the ground. And I know that there's a later question, the next one. And they gave us questions and kind of give us an idea of what we're going to talk about. And they said, besides money. So besides money, what do you need? Well, at the end of the day, we need people. And unfortunately, people cost money, but I won't go there. So I think the partnerships with the businesses require on our part to go out and we have to do our part. So an example, over MEA, I went to every single business. You try to communicate with people, and they're busy people. They got stuff going on. And so email kind of works, but oftentimes it doesn't. And so we were trying to do some communication, and I wasn't getting the responses that I needed in the time that I needed it in. So I sent them all an email saying, over MEA, I'm coming to your place. Well, boy, then I got emails, when are you coming? When are you coming? Well, this is when I'm coming. And I went to each of the businesses and I sat down in their offices and talked about it. Do we want this to happen? Is this something that we really want? Because then we got to go. And so I think it's that, developing those relationships, whether it's on the golf course or in their office or in our schools, but really, making that effort. And that effort is something that has to be applied from all of the positions. I also serve on the Pine Tech Community College Foundation Board and have since 2012. The president of Pine Tech, who I think is still here, there's Joe, he's on my PLTW board. And that's how it has to work. That's how partnerships have to work. And thus far, at least as it pertains to our PLTW program, it's working really well.
Do we skip you, Coley, when we get to that next question?
No, I'd really like to answer.
Everyone's hit on a lot of the pieces that I'm going to touch on as well, but do I even need this? Can you guys hear me or not? Yeah.
Everybody can hear you.
Okay. I don't want to use that. All right. First thing I will say is relationships. We were fortunate enough in Big Lake. I've been there 25 years now. And I spent the first 14 years in the elementary, and then got asked to move up to the high school. So this is my 11th year at the high school. And I know just about every family, every in-law, every outlaw, you name it. And I believe I have a good relationship with them, so I have no problem going and talking with them. Most people would call it cold calling. It's not for me. So it's just going and having a conversation. As far as how do we get people involved or what we did, first thing what started all of this was back in 2012, April 25th to be exact, just because I'm a note keeper, I hang on to everything. And we looked at our data, and I was not pleased when I saw that about 25% of our kids graduate with a 4-year degree. That can't be right. I didn't believe it. I was upset about it. I did my own due diligence and dug, and it's accurate, okay? But I found out a lot of other things. But the reason I was upset was because of the fact that I have several degrees myself. And then I presented to our teachers, our staff, got the same response. But again, they have all these degrees, okay? And so we had to first and foremost really get familiar with who's sitting in our classrooms. What does the data say about them? Okay, the teachers and the counselors and the social workers, they're the gatekeepers. So you have to spend, in my opinion, about 2 years working real hard at getting them all acclimated to really who is sitting in front of you. And what are your parents like? What are their careers? Okay?
What path did they take? Because about 60%, 62% roughly, the decisions that our kids make come from influence from our parents. Or their parents, not mine. But anyways, so just get to know what really, we have preconceived notions and ideas, and mine were so far off, and I would imagine yours are as well. Get to know your data. Now I know the name Luke Greiner was mentioned, and I want to give a shout. Is Luke still here? I missed him. I always plug him, and I'm glad that you did as well. Luke has a great way of sharing and disaggregating the data and bringing it to your staff, bringing it to your kids, bringing it to your community. And then, so if you get a chance, reach out to Luke. Invite him to your meeting to explain all this. Don't do it once. Don't do it twice. Do it about 4 or 5 times. Now, I know his schedule is busy to begin with. Have Della come on out. I can't thank Deeds enough because they get it and they continue to get it. So thank you. Continuing on, Cole mentioned about how he went about with Project Lead the Way. We did exactly the same thing. We started in middle school and worked our way through the high school, adding a course at a time to where we're at. And then this next year, our elementary is going to be a full-blown, one of our elementaries, because we have a pre-K 2 and then the 3-5. 3-5 is going to be a designated STEM school. And so, so that there's the flow through. So we have, I can't think of what it's called. We've got Gateway, we've got Launch, Gateway, and of course BLTW opportunities at the high school. But we started with the exposure with the elementary kids for 2 years. So they even know why we're doing this. Then as they go into the middle school, you've heard me say 2 years now, twice or 3 times. That's about what it takes for it to really sink in. And your teachers have to have the information. We have these really cool posters that the reason that we have them is it displays all the different jobs that you can have or path you can go down for those careers. If you like math, if you like science, if you like tech ed, and the teachers embed those in the lessons, no matter what the lesson is, kind of at the end of the lesson. So what we just did today or this week ties into this career. And so we get the gatekeepers involved. I'm glad to hear the mortuary piece down there because I get asked a lot of times, what type of experience do you give these kids when you go to the experiential learning? I believe we have a continuum called 3M. We go from modeling, manufacturing in the middle, and mortuary science on the end, and everything else in between. And it's because the teachers hear the conversations, okay? As far as the community goes, I'm going to give you a name too. She's been amazing. It's Hannah Klemick. She's from Big Lake. Do you know Hannah? She's amazing. She is one of my teammates, and that's how we approach it. When they have something going on at the city, we're there. When they have, and like even welcoming new companies, when we have something going on, she's there, or her team is there. She is the economic development person for the city of Big Lake, and she gets it. She also believes in the same philosophy I do. Now, I'm not encouraging this, but asking forgiveness versus permission along the way sometimes helps because we are tied up in a bureaucratic system that holds us down, in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying we should break the law. That's not what I'm saying. But if we really want change, we have to push up against it. And I know we have at least one former legislator, correct? I don't know if there's others here. I know there's another from another office down there. We work with legislators as well. And it's been a lot of fun because we work with legislators outside of our own area. Tama Tice from St. Cloud has been in my office several times for 3 hours at a crack. She's a representative from St. Cloud. And just having these conversations, get those people involved. And they too, it's interesting because I've had the luxury of sitting down with union leaders down at Krause Anderson a couple times, and they want the same thing we want. All the different departments want the same thing, but things get in the way, egos get in the way. Protecting their own budgets or their own programs get in the way of the whole system being successful. I'll get off my soapbox, but what I would say is get active and include your community. I also will say include your county. Everyone from the county knows me. We invite them as well. They can help. We're all in this together. And don't forget, we're doing this for, I believe in the saying that it takes a village to raise a child, but I'm going to go even further and say that it takes the child to raise the village, because we want to keep those kids around. They develop your cities, they develop your state, they develop, so again, I'll get off my soapbox, but find people that care and are passionate about it. Okay? You can pass that along.
Good work.
All right, thank you.
And I did only have 1 cup of coffee, so.
All right. So we are going to move on to the next question that you heard a little bit about before. And we want to just ask each group, besides money, what assistance do you need from your community businesses to prepare students for career readiness? If you could share maybe some of the obstacles that you faced and how you're educating or informing those people about what's needed. So I think it's been touched on a little bit, but if you want to pass the mic on down, and we'll just kind of start again.
So like Bob said, I think,
I probably don't like it either. Like Bob said, I think probably the biggest obstacle we feel or we think is there is probably the parameters that we have, the rules, the legislation, the expectations. For us, it's the grad requirements. And I think we can work with that. I think we can butt up against it. I think we can talk to our legislators and see what the intentions of the laws are, so that we can do the best we can do for students. I think what I want most from our local businesses and communities and parents is involvement. And I know that they will be as involved as we want them to be if we could just get them to pay attention that this isn't just some passing thing. I mean, not every kid is going to go to college. Some are, and we need to work really hard for them. And the students that aren't going to go to college, what are we doing for them? So we want parents to come in, listen to Luke Reiner, and then say, what are your hopes and dreams for your child? We want the students to say, beyond what isn't working, to tell us what they want us to give them. And we're doing a lot of interviews with students right now to say, what do you want? What do you think will be most helpful as you move out of high school? We have some excited teachers on this redesign team. We have about 55 full-time educators, and we probably have, I'd say more than a quarter are on the initial team that is starting the design, and it's going to be really exciting once we hear what parents want, what students want, and I think once the local businesses know what students and parents want, they're going to be all in and saying, what can we do to help? That's what I'm learning from these guys, and I'll be calling. We'll be calling. So money, yeah, but more. It's more important about to have the relationships.
Could you quickly, could you elaborate just a little bit more on like the career connection thing, especially?
Yep.
Kind of how is that? What are you doing with that?
So what we did with this was we gave businesses an opportunity to have a poster, and then we have talked with students about it. We talk to students about the career wheel all the time, especially in a junior class that's required. But we also talk about, we have these up where they can be seen both in the high school and middle school. And we talk a little bit about, you don't want to go to the Elam. I have 2 boys that I spent way too much time with as 9th and 10th graders who work at the Elam home, which I think is kind of interesting because they seem to hate people in 9th and 10th grade. And now they work with people. And it's really awesome. They don't work directly with them, they work with food service, which is pretty cool because I don't think they thought they'd be doing that either. So I think it's important for students to know businesses are not just one thing. When you go to work at a hospital, that's like a city. It's like working in a city. They have everything. They have sanitation, they have everything. So whatever it is you want to do, you probably do it for a health facility. And we're trying to get that information out there. Some students have very specific ideas about what they want to do, and some have some feelers out, and it's really important to throw out other ideas. We have a tattoo, at least one tattoo artist in town, and 25 years ago that wasn't a job. My son has a 4-year degree, he has a master's, he plays music on a cruise ship. Who knew that was a job? So we need to keep our minds open and help the students keep theirs open.
Sounds like a retirement gig.
I don't think he's gonna ever retire. Because he's not making any money.
Donna, would you like that microphone back?
No, I
All
can
right.
talk loud. So, what do we need? We need participation and, I guess, community involvement from the employer side. We have a lot to offer, but I think sometimes since, and this isn't a sales pitch, but since we're an independent system, sometimes you get forgotten versus, the fair views and stuff. I have docs that still make house calls, so if you think they wouldn't spend time with a high school student, you're wrong. You know what I mean? So, but I can't always get my local high schools involved. I actually spend more time with the students than I do with the school officials. It's the students are searching things out, and I'm really impressed. Like, I have a son full-time military, my significant other's retired. We now give credit for military service as experience credit for wage. So I have a lot of veterans, and my veterans are willing to talk to the kids if they're wanting to go into a branch. So it's even more than healthcare for us. It's what does the children that approach us or the youth need? So if they're thinking about going into the Marines, I have a guy that retired after 25 years. He'll tell you exactly what it's like. I have somebody that was Air Force and guards, and a lot of our medics are still in the guards. So I think for us, we don't need funding. We're offering programs. We just need involvement and to find out what the community needs. We have a lot of internal resources, so sometimes we amaze ourselves, I guess. Oh, you need this done? Oh, did you know? We have 457 employees, and everyone will know everybody's name. So it's kind of a network of our own, I guess.
Okay, so I know people in the back can't hear very good, so you can give me the high sign, and then you're gonna have to probably use.
I can project.
Use the gym voice.
Yeah, I can use my assistant principal voice.
There you go.
So I'm just going to say one thing about the whole money thing, and then I'll leave it alone. Yep, we do need it, and in large part because we need FTEs to be able to teach the kids this stuff. Okay, so I'll leave it alone, but because I know people don't want to talk about that. Am I not loud enough? No.
See,
Okay.
the problem with this wonderful room is it has these weird fans and they blow all the time.
Ah,
so when
okay.
you're in the back, you can't hear the front. So
Okay.
thank you.
No problem. So, yes, we need funding, and there is inequitable funding, and we know all that, so I'll leave it. But as I'm reading the question, I don't think you can just simply dismiss that when you're talking about this. Now, that said, what do I need from our community and from our businesses? I need 3 things that haven't already been mentioned. Identification of skills. So as you talk to the various partners that you're going to work with, what skills do they want the kids to come with? And there was a reference, I think, Doc, you made it, or actually I don't know where it came from, but anyway, what do you want the kids to know and be able to do when they come into your businesses, whatever that might be? Help us identify that, and then how can you help us teach them that? Because again, if kids can walk out of our high schools, whatever that looks like, if they can walk out of North Branch Area High School and walk into WCS machine and have the skills right then and there that they need, think of how that is going to impact that manufacturing company. They're not going to have to spend all the time on training the kids the young adults on what it is that they need to do because they already know it. So help us identify what skills you want the kids to have, and then help us develop, I say curriculum, yeah, I suppose it is, help us develop that curriculum in order to deliver that. We're teachers, we can do that, but we want you to help us develop that so you get what you want. So that end product is what you want. Help us change the message. When I talk with the presidents and the big shots in these manufacturing companies, they're frustrated that schools, and this is a generalization, schools are all about college. You got to send your kids to college. They all got to go to college. And I'll be honest, I think that has been the message for many, many years. That needs to shift. And they need to help us shift that message, help us craft that new message. Now, I will say that within our buildings, we need to do that too. And I can't speak specifically for all of the folks up here, but I have to believe that message is changing. We need to expose our kids to a message that says, hey, yep, four-year college is great, but it might not be for you. What is it that you want to know and be able to do? What kind of aspirations do you have? And here's how we're going to help you get there. And it can't be, oh, by the way. Oh, well, for the kids that aren't going to go to college, yeah, we got this. It needs to be a prominent part of your programming. You have to send that message. So help us change the message. And then this is specific probably to manufacturing industrial technology. Help us get industry standard equipment. At North Branch Area High School, we're going to redo our tech ed in the next couple of years. We were blessed by our community with a bond in order to do that. But right now, if you walked in there, the 50's called and they want their equipment back. And yep, and I meant it to be funny, but it's also true. And so our kids are working on equipment that, I mean, it's obsolete. We're still doing acetylene welding. If any of you know anything about welding, nobody welds with acetylene anymore. Nobody! So we're teaching our kids an obsolete skill. That's preposterous. So help us with that. And if you're in manufacturing, you know, those machines are like wicked expensive. And as a matter of fact, Regal Machine from Wyoming just helped us and gave us a really good deal on a new CNC machine that is industry standard. So now I got kids that are actually working on the equipment that when they leave and go into those businesses, they'll be able to utilize and have the skill set to do that. I don't know where Doug.
Could you guys hear me before? Was I loud enough or not?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna go without it. Big mouth. As far as other than money, my approach is, and thank you for talking about the Marine. My dad was a colonel in the Marine Corps, and then when he was retired, he had the Standard Oil bulk truck. So we, in essence, I grew up in Watkins, Minnesota, if you know where that is, little dinky town, Eden Valley Watkins School. But when he was out and about and a farmer went down, like they were ill or something, guess who did the farm work? And so I was sort of a farm kid. Anyways, and I appreciated that. That was gave me the work ethic anyways. But I don't want to do it with anybody's money to start. If I can't solve it first and foremost on our own, or if we can't solve it on our own and prove that it's workable, and then work out the kinks, and then come and ask for money. I'll give you an example. Our Conic came to us 2 years ago and said, would you like $20,000? I said, absolutely. And we had to fill a grant paper. They said, for your apprenticeship program. And I said, I don't want it for that. We could use it, but we don't have it to the point where we really need that. I said, what I want to do is build a program. We had just started our robotics team, and so I wanted it to go all the way back into the younger grades, and so that we wrote the grant for robotics. And it feeds all our Project Lead the Way classes. It feeds all of our other stuff. Anyways, I don't want money up front. I want to prove we can do it on our own, and I'm not speaking for the others, but we are there now, so I'm going to go back at Arconic and ask for this next year, because we now know what we didn't know before and how we would use it, okay? Because otherwise it becomes another program, and 3 years later, it's by the wayside. And we keep doing that. And that's why when I talk about systemic change, that's really what I'm talking about. And Cole talked about having it being part of everything you do. Absolutely. You need it to, that's why we did graduation requirements, okay? It's pretty cool when I talk about free as well. I've always offered that we're willing to sit down with you and help. And over the last 3 years, we've helped 26, I just counted them up, 26 different either school district or organizations get started. And the latest one, anybody here from Kimball? No? I got a letter from the principal, and obviously laminated it, but it talks about how a year ago we sat down with them and I said, you have to spend time discussing it. Don't just jump into it because it's the latest buzzword. And the principal, they now have 12 kids that are out working in apprentices, apprenticeship programs, or they also now have the exposure piece involved. They have the exploration where they're doing job shadowing, things like that. But gosh, 2.5 years ago it was Elk River. I heard Elk River mentioned here. I went to their, they have this board that supports the school. I can't remember what it's called. Anybody here from Elk River? Okay, and we presented there too. We don't have the answers, but like you were saying, they're all our kids. They're all our communities. Last I checked, we're the state of Minnesota, right? And so share it. Don't hog it, share it. And so that's free too, okay? And that's where, again, sorry, I'd love it if there would be this bridge between Bindali, Deed, and MDE to just share it. So, but you can do a lot of things for free. You can solve it on your own. You really can. So, did I answer that?
Yeah.
All right, so we have one last question, and then we'll open it up to questions. And before, though, that we give you that last question, I'm just going to steal the mic for a second. And just listening to what we've been talking about and what I've heard people talking about for years, I just kind of want to suggest that maybe instead of saying that four-year college isn't for every kid, we should really be saying that four-year college isn't for every occupation. What kind of work are you interested in doing? So helping kids figure out what they want to do and then directing them to the right education for that, because there's nothing wrong with the kids. We just all have different interests or different skills and strengths. So just a thought. All right, so moving on. The last question we're going to ask everyone is, if you had a crystal ball, if you could go back and turn back the clock, what are a couple things that you would for sure do differently as you set up the programs that you're now working on? And I guess depending how many things you've developed, maybe that's one thing or maybe it's a few, but if you can just share a couple key things that you would do differently.
I think the more people who have input, the better results. And as we build and rebuild and our Learning and Living Committee ebbs and flows, we need to invite different voices to the table, because everybody has important information for us and we need to compile it and disaggregate it, not just say this is the theme of the day or the theme of the 90s or the theme of the 21st century. We need to take it all and put it all together. So I think listening is really important, and making sure you're listening to as broad a spectrum as you can.
So I realize I'm in a more unique situation than them. If I had a crystal ball, I don't need to look back, I need to move forward. So We didn't have a program, so for us, we just need to keep developing that, and I need to go to my local schools and not take no for an answer. If it's what our youth are looking for, I guess our organization needs to stand up more and say this is what we're going to do with or without you, more or less. So we have a lot smaller communities, and we're just kind of in a unique area and unique situation. Our local don't have near the equipment that you're even talking about to work with. And as far as like, we don't have all the new equipment at our facility. So for our kids to be able to pick up and maybe work on an old piece of equipment is important, because that's what we'll have to do if we have a breakdown with the new equipment. We need to know that they can go all the way through. And the critical thinking skills is huge. Also, to work with your kids to understand, even as far as healthcare, what is a DHS background and what choices do you make now that will affect your entire career. There's things that can happen that will kick you out of healthcare for life. So it's making good choices, and that is what I'd ask from, I guess, the school systems to consider as a business what we need. We need good choices so that we can help them on our side.
First of all, thanks for that suggestion. I like that. That's much better language. Much better language. We're all learning. If I had a crystal ball and I could go back, what I would do is, and Doc kind of alluded to it already, I would connect with all of these people on the front end. I think what I found myself doing is, oh, we're going to do this, and this is what we got to do, and we got to do this next, and this next, and this next, and then you get caught up in the minutia of it, and you miss out on a lot of. I think I probably, well, what's the old saying? Work smarter, not harder. I could have worked much smarter by engaging with other people that know more and better than I do. I'm just a high school principal, so I know my thing, but I don't know all of this other stuff. So if you're starting out, do some of that legwork on the front end and talk to these various people. Figure out who it is that you need to talk to first. Talk to them, kind of get your plan set before you all of a sudden get rolling into it. I wish I had done that. Now, it works out. You know, you can always go to them. They're always there. But it's much cleaner if you take care of that groundwork first.
I have a saying in my office, and I believe in it, where it says, obstacles are those frightful things that you see when you take your eye off the goal. And when you talk about the minutia, everybody goes into, well, how can we? It should be, yeah, how can we? So don't create obstacles for yourself. Don't even see them, okay? If you really figure out what you want to do, okay, go after it. But the most important piece, I really believe, is the why. Understand why you're doing that. What are you trying to accomplish? The why. As far as the crystal ball, I remember when we first started, I got a couple of my staff all wound up about it, ready to go, and we did the old, we're going to present to the Lions and the Chamber and the whatever else, and I felt like I was whispering in a hurricane. And then we got smarter. We went and we put this all together and presented to a company called Remley at the time. They're now Lisi Medical Remley. They split. Arconic has a large chunk and they're growing, and Lisi Medical has another. But we went there and they're like, we're in, okay? And we did it. We before we rolled it all out, we got this team just ready to go. We spent a lot of time on it, and then we went. And then all of a sudden, when we presented again, we had our team. We had Remley, we had the city of Big Lake, we had the schools, okay? And people took notice that, oh, Remley, okay? How do I get in? How do I get in? And it started happening. So that would be how I would do it over, okay? And those are the things when we talk about sharing, those are the things we can help cut through all the road rash, because we had lots of it, and help you move forward. I want to also share one of the best things we ever did, and we've been doing it now for almost 4 years, is we decided we are going to make this as important as anything else we do. And so we do signing events, okay, where the kids sign an agreement with the companies to work together. We bought a backdrop that says Big Lake Hornets on it, and we make a big deal about it. In fact, the first time you probably heard it was from another school in another state. I want to say it was, if I remember, it was like Washington or whatever. They actually reached out to us, and we shared everything